This is iRacing.
It's game on here in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Simply put, it looked like after 5 rounds of running, it was going to be a runaway for Eduardo Radiz. What the difference 1 round's worth of championship makes. It is still a 1 point or 1 race gap at the front, but by every stretch, Jacob Reed is fighting for a championship after his first win of the season. We head to a circuit that has been known for well over half a century as a wonderful place for racing. Welcome to the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. And for round number 7 here of this one, my name is Jake Sperry, and alongside with me for today's action is Joseph Black. Christian Deploy is in the director's chair using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But what to be said about the St. Lawrence River and the place that hosted the rowing back in the 1962 Olympics? Let's take a look around this magical circuit with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Host of the Canadian Grand Prix for over 40 years, this track's popularity among fans refuses to wane. Although it has gone through a few alterations in its history, the nature of its layout has remained pretty much the same. That nature, of course, is that its 14 turns are mostly chicanes, split up by long straights to add up to a 2.7-mile street course-like canyon of a track. These 4.3 kilometers are mainly made up of actual streets on the man-made Ile Notre Dame, though portions are specifically built for the racetrack. But whether or not fans consider it a true street course, the close barriers that line the majority of the track don't care what you think. Places like the exit of Turn 4 and Turn 9 frequently collect the greedy. But these pale in infamy to the notorious Wall of Champions. Named for its penchant to collect F1 World Champions, the corner itself is called Quebec. Regardless, it's a finicky and tight chicane with a critical corner exit, so drivers are tempted into edging the car as close as they dare to the concrete. Despite the numerous heavy braking zones, passing can be difficult at times for certain types of cars. Often, attrition or cut course penalties play a bigger part in who finishes where. While sports cars and NASCAR have both made stops here, this place is mainly known for its history with Formula One. Named after what is easily Canada's most popular driver in the International Open Wheel Series, this semi-temporary circuit looks like it's actually here to stay for a long, long time.
A circuit that has seen quite a lot of amazing running out there, but critically, it's one of the most hidden street circuits in the world, Joseph, by the fact that the public roads around here pretty much form perfectly into what is a very tough circuit to battle on today.
It certainly is. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve is one of my favourites on the Formula One calendar. 2.71 miles, 4.36 kilometres, and, well, it's just been just under half a century of racing here at this circuit in Montreal. Main overtaking opportunities will be into turn 1, will be into turn 10, and down towards the famous Wall of Champions.
Yeah, that is the final corner, the 14th of the 14 around here, and so it is going to be very tough as we have the second of our North American leg. Let's talk, though, championship standings, because for the moment, Eduardo Radiz could only get 4 points out of Miami. Jacob Reed, his first ever win in the 305, pulls the gap down to 26, with James Byrne currently finding himself in 3rd position. He's only a point ahead now of Sander Haugerud after his crash out of the race. Walter Lux finds himself in 5th, with Jeffrey Lawler in 6th position. On a mark of 2 starts and 2 second-place finishes, Mario Bodlosh moves up to 7th, tied on points with Alex Hagland on countback, with Leopold Steneros in 9th, and George van Rensburg rounding out your top 10, not scoring points last time out at Miami. So that sets itself into mind. But for those who are here for the first time, who will look to understand this race here, Joseph, what are they dealing with?
Well, we've got our 7th round of 24, so we're almost a third of the way through the season. 70 laps, so it is going to be a full Grand Prix length race here today. They've got open setups. They can tweak this Mercedes W13 however they see fit. And, well, if they wreck it, there's no spare car for themselves. Drive through at 17x and additional penalties every 8x that they pick up. So they're going to be wanting to avoid those. And I think there's going to be quite a few track limit infringements today.
They've got to be careful about that here as we take a look here in the mouth of the St. Lawrence River that extends out here through Quebec as we get ourselves in through qualifying. 8 minutes, 2 laps available to go and set that into play. Track temperature is 35 degrees, so it's a bit on the warmer side here today, but nothing unmanageable out there for this time of year. You'd normally be wincing a bit if you see it tick over the wrong side of 40. There's your championship leader who runs on through the right and the left then of that final chicane. First lap times then coming on the board. Florian Kammeyer currently quickest on a 14.4, but Eduardo Rodis a 13.3, going a lot more aggressive on that first lap on that set of Pirelli softs. Goes quickest, and Sander Haugerud is the nearest challenger at the moment at 3/10 back.
Yeah, it certainly is. As the first few laps start to come in this qualifying session. Of course, they've got about 5 minutes to go, so this will all change. Rodis and Haugerud split by 0.3 of a second. Kammeyer over a second off of Rodis at the moment as all of the laps fly in. And we'll be seeing some more drivers contending for the top of this order. At the moment, though, Rodis looks as though he's going to be unchallenged with his 1:13. That's not what he would have wanted.
No, his second lap's going to have to be abandoned now with the rear wing completely off. Better in qualifying than it is in the race, but this is a golden goose opportunity for everyone to jump up, like Jacob Reed, who is hunting for his 25th pole position all time out there. He knows how critical today is going to be for him as he looks to set it up. He's won here before as well. Kammeyer then moves to 7/10 off the back. Reed on his second lap to the line. Bodlosh fourth, a 13.8. Only for Jacob Reed, goes third fastest on that attempt, and so that's going to sting a little bit as Haugerud goes fastest by 0.3 of a second in his rookie campaign. Apariari up into the top 5.
Yeah, he is certainly, and there will be 6/10 splitting the top few now as Haugerud goes 3,000 ahead of Eduardo Rodis at the top of the field and looks to be set to be the best driver in place for pole position. Mario Bodlos heading through the second sector now, hoping to beat his 1:14.255 currently, that finds himself in 8th place within a second of Haugerud, but with a lot of work to do. He's just been knocked down by Lundell. Hagelin goes up as well with his second lap, and he's up into the top 4 onto the second row of the grid, but nowhere further just yet. He's going to be just under a 10th ahead of Walter Lux, but the majority of the drivers at the end of their qualifying sessions, and so it is crunch time for those still out on track.
I'm shocked to see Emil Lundell only 9th. He's someone who's in on a part-time schedule, but a couple years ago he couldn't stop winning when he jumped in. Bodlosh crosses the line and goes to the second row of the grid then with that 1:13.7. If he keeps on like this, he is going to be a menace between now and the end of this season. Adam Webb is out there on his second lap, and he has to be very tight on that final corner. Had to scrub a lot of speed for fear of the Wall of Champions. A 1:14.9 does not improve him from 14th position out there on the grid. We know Eduardo Rodis' second lap isn't going to mean anything. The only driver who is out there now on a lap as far as it stands is Ray Griffioen in the number 22. Lowest I rating in the field. It's a 5,300 strength of field for Ray, as he knows that over the course of his career, 13 starts to his name, and he's had finishes as high as 6th and 8th and 10th once each on his run. 13 points he has managed to score over his career. That won't count as a lap, so that will mark it all down in the books as dusted. A minute 45 left, and here's the only other driver who can make something happen. Mr. Experience himself, home soil for Kent Nielsen.
Yes, it certainly is, and well, he'll be hoping to do his home fans proud. Of course, sitting at the grandstands, as you can see, down towards turn number 10 there. As he comes out of the exit of it, he won't be improving. He will start from what is likely going to be 18th place for the moment for Nielsen. Radice very close to that pole position, of course, a pole position that he has managed to hold 3 times this season. Haugerud hoping for his first, and what a time it would be for himself to be able to take it, of course, almost a third of the way through the campaign, and he will be hoping to take that top spot. And I think he's pretty much managed to confirm it, becoming the 5th driver this season. As we just watched Mario Bodlos becoming the 5th driver this season, he was one that's done it before, and Haugerud adding himself to the ranks.
Sander Haugerud, then, it's his first ever pole position in his debut campaign, and he will know how critical it is, as there are no drives to set laps. So why don't we run through this grid? And it is a full grid of 22 that we have here operating and running this, of course, running adjacent to the Formula One calendar, as Sander Haugerud will be on that pole. 113.385, 4 thousandths clear of the championship leader, Eduardo Radice. And I can note as well here, around this circuit of Montreal, Eduardo Radice has never won around this place. Mario Bodlos lines up 3rd with Jacob Reed in 4th position. It leaves Alex Hagland and Volta Lux on 5th and 6th places. Edward Apariari will line up 7th, and a debutant here in the Grand Prix Tour is Adam Williams. He'll be going from 8th, with Florian Kammerer in 9th, and Emil Lundell rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, it's a strong start for Adam Williams, becoming the 340th driver in the Grand Prix Tour in 8th. But Jeffrey Lawler, very experienced, he finds himself in 11th alongside George Van Rensburg. Philip Koenhart and Adam J. Webb will be alongside each other on the 7th row of the grid, and it will be Ray Griffin and Sebastian Rekoff on row 8. Lyle Pienaar, Kent Nielsen, Ali Gushman and Lukasz Okomski will round out your top 20.
It's nice to see Łukasz Okomski back in. He's been left out basically by his iRacing, and was someone who used to race quite a bit in the scene back in the day. Balázs Galliard and Max Barnes do not set times. Galliard on 3 occasions this season has finished 11th, and on 1 occasion has gone 10th. So he has points to his name. Max Barnes still searching for his first as they line themselves up ready for what will be a tough 70 laps worth of running. Not much of a run to turn 1, and not much width around this circuit either. So it means that if you do get a slow start, there is sometimes that tendency to trip up over someone else because you can't get out of the way off of the get-go. But for Sander Haugerud, who runs the McLaren colours out there of the papaya orange out there for his Mercedes W13 performance, he knows that he is in some rare air with some of the best operators in this series directly behind. We talk championship as well, being critical at this point because they'll be eyeing this one up. It's back-to-back street circuits as well, with Long Beach on the horizon, and who will set themselves up on what is expected today to be a one-stop race. Everyone is starting on the yellow-walled medium compound tyres. Then to get themselves set, lights on here then at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Lights out here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Bodlos a little slow off the get-go. Haugerud struggles through the second phase of acceleration. Eduardo Radice sweeps around the outside and into the race lead through the centre S, and knows that it's all about the drive here over towards turns 3 and 4 out on circuit. He's got the clearance necessary, and moves already being made. Emil Lundell sweeping through, and Edward Apariari as they work to turn 6 and 7.
Yeah, it's a great start, isn't it, for Radice? 7/10 of a second the gap for himself at the moment at the top of the field, and he'll be hoping to manage that as he heads through the course of this race. Haugerud as well, though, will be trying to keep with him. He will try to ward off the pressure from Jacob Reed behind, and he's just going to try to maintain that consistency throughout the course of this race. Walter Lux hoping to challenge Mario Bodlos in the final sector of this race. He's not going to be able to do so. Is there going to be a move further back for Adam Williams? No, there's not, but he's gained 1 off the start. Emil Lundell behind him has gained 2. A poor exit from the hairpin. Who was that further back in the order? I think it was Jeffrey Lawler, who's not been punished for that mistake, but who just hold himself in position. Apariari and Van Rensburg are going to be side by side into the final corner, but I think on lap 1 of 70, they don't want to make any rash decisions.
I think it was Ken Nielsen who was tagged around by Ali Gochman, the Turkish driver. So that could have been what we saw down at Lepangle, the hairpin. But Radice with a gap, and with a gap early, and he'll be looking to build on that as it goes. They don't get the drag reduction system until lap 3 out there in this race, not lap 2 as we see in the modern day of Formula running out there. Working through the right then of 5 into turn 6 and 7. Van Rensburg trying to work away by Edward Apari-Ari with Jeffrey Lawler and Florian Kammeyer behind. Kammeyer will be itching for a finish as we'll take a look at the replay here on the start of this one. Florian has retired from the last 3 races. You can see Gochman chucks it down the inside. And he's basically pinned up on the curb there with not enough overlap to be allowed the space.
Yeah, just about avoiding damage, both of the drivers, I think, at this point. As Sebastian Rekhoff has gone round, that's not ideal at the start of this race. And when everybody is in that peloton, it's going to be so difficult to make your way back into it, especially as the drivers are heading down the back straight to start off their DRS attempts for the first time. And there'll be 3 DRS zones around here for these drivers to attack with, and some shorter than others, some significantly longer. Eduardo Radice sets the fastest lap of the race with 1:16.4, meaning that Haugerud is unlikely to get that rear wing open.
Well, Sander Haugerud knows that he's got what he needs to, as we'll go for a moment onto radio for this point in time as we continue on here with the action that we have available. Jacob Reed currently in 3rd. He's under pressure from Mario Bodlosh, working through towards turns 8 and 9 of the circuit on the back section. The gaps then very much making themselves known. We've got Ali Gochman actually into the pit and has just come out the other side. So that would have been for a front wing change by the looks of things, with the damage that was picked up earlier on. So that puts him down the order. But here's George Van Rensburg. This is the scrap on for 9th and 10th positions, because EOA has gone far too deep down there, and he'll be really trying to get himself turned around, and he will drop 1-2 places for his troubles. He'll come out just ahead of Adam Webb.
Yeah, and respect to Webb for realising that that's exactly what was happening and allowing Apari.
Lawler's gone down. It's a massive accident. A massive accident then as he goes spearing down pit lane with an absolutely almighty shunt off. And for him, who is so high up in the championship, his first retirement of the season.
Yeah, certainly not ideal. Jeffrey Lawler, unfortunate there. Both were very, very squeezed. And you felt as though it was only a matter of time before somebody had to back out. Nobody backed out. Jeffrey Lawler ended up the victim of it. So on lap 4 of this race, that looks like it's going to be the end for the number 9. Very, very unfortunate indeed for somebody who's had such a storied campaign. We'll take a look at the replay to see exactly what happened. So you can see Jeffrey Lawler's closing up on the outside, just tucks to the inside, tries to sweep back, and I think was a little bit more trusting that the car was going to sweep across, and then they just frankly didn't.
Well, George Van Rensburg has the right to hold his line, and he did exactly that. If you're going to try and go down a line of 1 car width wide, you do so at your own risk. And Jeffrey Lawler, I think, has only got himself to blame on that incident, because he's out of this one. He was one of only 2 drivers in this field so far this season to have 6-point scoring finishes in a row. The only other driver to do that, the championship leader, Eduardo Radice. But now here comes the move for 3rd. Mario Bodlosh down the inside will sneak that one back through and up onto the podium with the pass there on Jacob Reed. What will be very interesting to note as well is the progress they're doing behind, because Adam Williams already up into 6th position, and he's making some very good work then off of the early stages of this race. Everybody on a medium tyre.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're all going to be going for those medium tyres. This is the view from Van Rensburg, and he just appears so suddenly for the driver now in 9th. And there's not really, I don't think, much he could have done about that. Unfortunate for both of those drivers to be involved. But Van Rensburg escaped with just a little bit of emotional damage more than anything else. So Haugerud, in the meantime, set the fastest lap last time out with a 1:16.3, and he's been closing in on Eduardo Radice quite quickly It was about 1.6 seconds the gap a couple of laps ago. It's now gone as low as 1.1, so he's taking the opportunity here to close that gap to Radice, and it might be soon that the 8 is back within DRS range.
Kent Nielsen under pressure from Lyle Pienaar, the South African out there who has started 2 races this season. He's finished both of them, but outside of the points, Lyle Pienaar has been waiting for a while now to score some points out there. He's got a handful to his name, but nothing over the course of this season. I think you have to go all the way back to Aragon last year for the last time that he scored points, but on the brakes he's not going to get close enough here, because while you do have this double DRS to go and help you, you get the run out of Lopango, you get the run through the Wall of Champions, it's very, very tough to get that overspeed to make it work by the nature of running the downforce that they do, medium spec then, or even sometimes low spec, having to be run at a circuit like this. You very much are aware that the dirty air hurts a lot more with the style of corner that you have around this place.
Certainly does. Medium speed, a lot of them, so they'll be going into them in about 3rd or 4th gear, which can become very difficult as we've got our first tyre switch of the race. There'll be Barnes and Hill, or Gotchman even. The graphic is not particularly representative. Gotchman has switched over to a set of the soft compound tyres, and well, we'll be going from 21st. Galliard maybe having a look at Okomsky, who ran a little bit wide out of the exit of the corner, but he can't quite get the exits enough to make that move stick. Another fastest lap of the race from Halberud, and he got a 1:16.186, 3,000ths quicker than Radice as Galliard looks to the inside of the final couple of corners. He won't make the move just yet. So they are really pushing each other to the limit here. Bodlosh over 3/10 slower than the top 2.
Yeah, and that's really telling. Van Rensburg and Kamar scrapping Pienaar, correct myself. It was Aragon the year before that, 2024, his last point-scoring finish out there, and that was fabled as a race where Florian Kamar got his first ever race win in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. Behind him is Łukasz Okomski, who's looking to try and find his pass through, then Galliard, then Max Barnes. So they're setting themselves up in a nice train at the moment, working through this third chicane that'll be coming along, I should say, and trying to find a way through. Now, speaking of which, there is George Van Rensburg then not having everything his own way, because he's backwards. You see him on the right-hand side.
Yeah, he is. That's not what he would have wanted. And George Van Rensburg, the second incident that we've seen of him in this race, and this might have just been a spin by himself, because he was kind of in a pack of his own ahead of Kamaya. We'll see a replay, though, of what happened to Van Rensburg. Has he taken too much curbing? Short answer, yes, he has.
I think he's too eager on the throttle, and the car's just not responded in the way that he wants it to. You could see him fight for grip initially, and then the back just stepped out. So it's either a case of he's got too much or too little of it through the aerodynamic downforce. That's why he goes around, and he is also a driver with the most retirements in the iRacing Grand Prix World Tour, with 20 to his name over the course of 5 seasons. So he knows that it's very tough for him to deal with. This is Lyle Pienaar then overcutting the chicane. It's worth noting, one of the biggest slowdown penalties you can get is that final chicane.
It certainly is, but it's a case of two evils, really. You don't want to turn too early into the corner. You don't want to turn in too late. If you turn in too late, you get one of the biggest slowdowns in iRacing. If you turn in too early, that could see you fly into the wall or into the curbing, which could unsettle the car and lose you a lot of time. So you have to really nail that final corner. And the fact that they have to do it 70 times is just testament to their abilities, because it is one of the most difficult corners on really any racing sim or any race track in general, because of how much the curb jumps at you, because of what happens if you miss the corner, which is of course the Wall of Champions, which has claimed many a champion, hence its name. Galliard here is going to be very much going to put Okomsky under pressure, and he's going to go to the inside of that final corner, but I don't think they're going to want to go side by side. No, indeed they're not. Okomsky bats out, Galliard makes his way through.
Yeah, you don't want to risk it too early in this one. You know how critical it's going to be. Emil Lundell, a gain of 3 over the course of this one. Adam Williams, a gain of 2. In front of that is Volta Lux, a gain of 1. Alex Hagland there in 8th place, -3 for this race at the moment. 2 Swedes in a line, a Brit and an Austrian as far as they work into this third chicane here, the right left of 8 and 9, and over to turn 10 of Lepangle. And how would you try and navigate through what is a very, very tricky section of circuit here? You can see Emil Lundell's bottled up there, really deep in on the brakes, struggling to get it slowed and rotated. And now off the exit, he hands over 0.6 of a second and realizes, well, I've just got to do that all over again. It makes life very difficult here around this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. It's one of those where it's a tale of two halves of a lap.
It certainly is. It really, it's very difficult to adapt yourself to the two different parts of the track. And well, it's the first sector which is just so tight and twisty, and the last sector which is more all about those straights and getting it slowed down for the hairpin. Max Barnes maybe having a look at the back of Lyle Pienaar, does not go for it, but it's just starting to threaten. This group has been kind of on and off in terms of the fighting, and whilst there is DRS for the driver at the front of it, I don't think that's going to last too long for Akomski. He's 1.1 off of the back of Galliard, so while the Hungarian is opening up that gap, Akomski may well just be left in his dust, and Pienaar and Barnes will want to pounce and want to catch their way back up.
Well, you look at Max Barnes there and you see the scraping there on the inside of the winglet there, the end plate that is in play, so it indicates that he's had a busy time of things at the start of running, and he'll still have a lot more to go and cover over the course of this race to put himself in there. Already a 7th of the way through, and they'll be eyeing this one up, knowing that this is a tyre that is C2, C3, C4 in the real world, because they don't get as much degradation here out there, Joseph. They normally run C3, C4, C5. Wide goes Akomski, and in the bright fluorescent green, he is going to lose out that place to not only Lyle Pienaar, but to Max Barnes as well.
He certainly is. That's a shame for Akomski, who's going to drop to the back of that group. Pienaar wants to catch up to Galliard, and he's just been offered the true opportunity. 1.3 the difference between Radice and Haugerud at the moment, and about a second even between Haugerud and Bodlos for second and third place as well. So they've not let each other go too far. The top four remaining in this pack, and actually Jacob Reed managed to snatch the fastest lap away. They keep pushing each other to faster and faster levels, and Reed has a fastest lap of 0.3 faster than Bodlos and Haugerud, and another 10th faster than Radice. So I think it's all about consistency for the number one at the moment that's managed to keep him ahead. But Haugerud 0.2 faster on that last lap. I think he's going to be back within DRS range soon.
Consistency is king. It's worth noting as well, as far as the championship goes, no James Byrne today, so that's going to be a 0 in his back pocket for the second consecutive race meet. So for the moment, Sander Haugerud with a really good chance now to jump up to third in the championship. Reed on the back of Bodlos, not close enough there into the final chicane of 13-14, and now making the run up towards the centre chicane to start the lap off. This left-right of turns 1 and 2. And for Jacob Reed, I think he understands what the aim of today is. Try and hold on to that pace. He's got the fastest lap check mark next to his name. And on that last lap, Mario Bodlos, 0.4 quicker than Haugerud, 0.3 quicker than Eduardo Radice. If they can pull this gap back down in, we're not talking about 2 and 2. We talk about a 4-car train at the front.
You could be, you very much could be. They need to catch that up though, and Reed with another fastest lap of a 1:15.516, of course, is going to be closing that gap, and again, 6 tenths quicker than Radice. So I think it's very much starting to close up between the top few, as Reed pushing very, very hard indeed at this point of this stint, and he's going to be all over the back of Bodlos if he can get this exit down. He can't quite get it done as aggressively, but that's because he went later into the corner to start to threaten the number 4, and as the DRS opens, that gap will come down from about 5 tenths. We will see how effective it is down this straight. It will be about 0.3 of a second that Jacob Reed is going to be able to get in, 2.5 give or take, and he's going to try to keep it. Adam Williams keeping on making moves up, and he's made his way into the top 5 now. Walter Lux is victim.
Yeah, so a nice, comfortable pass there from Adam Williams, and he is looking now to extend out with about 5 seconds of fresh air to that next group. So he had to just be calm, be precise in how he wanted to go about it. He's made the move, and he's done very, very well in terms of making that pass on Grand Prix Tour debut, but he clatters the wall there going through turn 4, and you can't get away with that too often.
No, you certainly can't, especially not around Canada where the walls are so close to you, and they are very, very brutal, as a couple of the drivers have already found out. Jeffrey Lawler, case in point, where he just went spearing into it, and that was the end of his race. It saw one of his front tyres off, and it saw his rear wing off as well, so he's very much able to tell you all about that. Running wide goes Bodlos, and Jacob Reed's going to pull alongside. This will help him when he picks up that DRS down the next straight. He's going to be almost flat out alongside. Is he going to make the move into the final couple of turns? Turn 13, turn 14. Yeah. He doesn't even need the corner. He gets there before.
Mario, very astute, very wise character, lifts off, gets very close to the wall of champions, wall on the outside, and ultimately, I think, when you sit down at it, Mario's trying to get the rest of his race sorted. Now coming out of the pits there is Łukasz Komski. Then as he gets back up to speed, he'd been down in the pits for a change of front wing out there, and so he's back off and going on a set of the soft compound tyres on lap 14, and already a lap down. It will be a long day at the office for him, but for Eduardo Radice now, he knows he's got Halgru to worry about, and also his nearest rival in the championship, Jacob Reed, who is there in third, who wants to try and siphon his way up the order. He was second here last year, and he won the year before that.
And he has been the paciest driver, especially in the last 5-10-ish laps, with consistent 115s being put in for the number 2 that has closed him down to Halgarud, who's been setting 16-0s, and Radice, who's been setting 16-1s. So Jacob Reed just very much needed the opportunity that Bodlos offered him around turn 10 to close into the top 2 drivers. And that's what can happen in a race like this. You can just keep that pressure up, just like Reed did, and then you wait for the driver to make a mistake. There will be at least one small mistake in these 70 laps. We saw it with Bodlos. It was a small one, but it allowed Jacob Reed the opportunity to pull alongside, and with the DRS, it assisted him to make his way through. Last time out, Reed at 16.1, Halgarud 16.3, Radice 16.1.5.
Yeah, so we're seeing now the gaps as they go. They stabilise at this point. Now, I'd wonder here, as a driver, you're lap 15. I'm not suggesting you pit right now, but you know that you can go anywhere up to about lap 40 as Balazs Galliard looks for a way to 14th past Kent Nielsen, not necessarily finding it on the back of Kunhart and Griff Yoen and the likes, which are all there. What point do you think about undercut?
I think they're already going to be thinking about it. Not going to actually make it, but I think the undercut will come in around 10-ish laps. They'll start to really think about it. 25 will be where they start to think about maybe switching over to see whether that's going to be the superior strategy. But of course, they've done races around Montreal before. At least those who've raced last couple of seasons have, because this has been a staple of the Grand Prix Tour calendar. Every single year there has been a trip to Montreal, so the drivers will know it very well. They will know exactly when they need to be coming into the pits, and well, they will make those decisions as they go, whether it's the undercut, whether it's the overcut that's going to work around this track.
Just had a note that Alex Hagland tagged the wall out of the wall of champions behind Emil Lundell, so they'll have to be very careful about that. But Emil is no stranger to being up near the front of the field. He's very much boxed in, maybe a circuit that doesn't quite gel as much as it would do otherwise, and Sweden comes up with some very talented sim racers out there. And you know, you've only got to look around at, say, Marcus Byfeldt, for example. He might be the next great Swedish sim racer out there, as Halgaru has made a mistake out there. He's now fallen back to 2 seconds, and that is bringing in then Jacob Reed back to try and close down the gap overall, just trying to have a look and see where it exactly went wrong. And by the looks of things, third chicane might have been where the time started bleeding. But you've got also the likes of Alexander Spett, who is one of the best sim racers in the world right now. So there are so many great talents from Sweden. There's 2 of them in here, in Hagland and Emil Lundell. But Jacob Reed is on a charge, and he's wanting to get by Sander Halgaru sooner rather than later. Won't get a chance here into turn 2.
No, he won't at the moment. He won't have that door opened on Haugerud, who's actually off of the back of Radice at the moment. They have slowed down just to manage the tyres, and so that has allowed them the opportunity to pull back into the clutches of Jacob Reed. So the Norwegian driver is going to have to think about how much he wants to fight this with Jacob. I think, going through the mind now of Sander, I think there'll be a point where he goes, maybe it actually works better for my race to let Jacob through. Bodlos isn't quite quick enough to get past Sander. Reed certainly is. And what Jacob Reed also has is the ability to catch up to Eduardo Radice. So Haugerud is going to, I think, allow him through at some point very soon when the opportunity arises, which might be right out of the exit of turn 10. I think he's just going to let Jacob Reed go, stay within the DRS and be carried along without having to use too many of his tyres.
I also note that Florian Kammeier and Adam Webb have had contact as here comes the pass then, and what a move that is for Jacob Reed that puts him into second. He's now 2.4 seconds off the back of his main championship rival, Eduardo Radice, and saying, look, I've got to get my hurry-up message sorted out there and try and go. Adam Webb in trouble down at the hairpin now, so he's had an issue, and again, we're seeing a lot of it. Third chicane is catching everyone out.
Yes, it certainly is, and that's not what they would want to see at all, and well, we will see how they learn through it as we head through the remainder of this race. The chicanes here, very, very tricky, can trip the drivers up very easily with the likes of the high curbing, especially through here. You can see that it will lift the drivers up just that little bit, and we saw that earlier on with Van Rensburg. Just going around, potentially taking too much curbing, might be taking a little bit of grass as well. Adam Webb, what's happened to him? Well, he's almost done the opposite. He's almost run too wide and just clarted the wall.
Well, I don't think he's hit the wall as far as he's gone, but what I would maybe argue to about this here at this moment in time, as you got Lundell side by side right now with Volta Lux along the back stretch, as this move looks to try and be done, and ultimately Lundell losing out then the chance to make that pass, and Lux holds on to his place. I would more argue the fact that he's done that on the gear shift as he's gone through, and because he's gone and clicked into another gear, the moment that the car's disengaged on the differential, I think that it's absolutely, you know, put it around in the wrong place, wrong time for him. The car's just snapped because it's, for half a moment, got no drive.
Yeah, and that can be difficult for the drivers to contend with. Emil Lundell, just seeing what happened to the man currently in 7th place in the top right of your screens, bringing through as many replays from up and down the order as we can. As, of course, there's going to be plenty of opportunities throughout the course of this race to see drama. And, well, with the 21 drives that we have remaining in this race, they've certainly got plenty of drama, certainly got plenty of pace in them as well. In terms of the times that they will be pitting, the first pit stop that we saw last year from a leader was from Walter Lux, who was 5th. He's currently 6th, and we can see him on screen right now. The first time he pitted was lap 27, so it's going to be about 8 laps time where I think he may well be going for something similar. Mario Bodlos going for a move to the inside of the final couple of corners. He makes it stick. Haugerud not fighting too much, and through goes the 4 onto the podium.
Pole sitter off the podium now in the form of Sander Haugerud, and he'll be looking at this thinking, okay, maybe my long run pace isn't quite as good as what I need it compared to Bodlos, to Reed and to Radice, who sit themselves where they do at this point in time, working through turn 4 and around turn 5 over to the 6-7 chicane out there to try and set up the middle sector of the lap. But I would look around at Volta Lux. He's a driver who actually gave me his set of data that he's been using over the week. He's got a wonderful tool out there to help drivers work out what tyre strategy to use in these Formula machines. He is a mechanical engineer by trade. He works for Avia Race Tech, which is one of the big producers out there in Austria. And critically, as he now falls again into the clutches of Emil Lundell, he's someone who said to me before the start of this race, we all know it's going to be a one-stop, but I don't have a clue when people are going to pit.
Yeah, I think that can be the case, especially in sim, where you can do so much practice in your own time. You can't do the same thing in real life. You can't simulate these track conditions but you can in sim as much as you would like. And so all of the drivers will be keeping their cards close to their chest, I think, in terms of their strategy, because it can be so very open. And we will see what the drivers decide to do. I think it will be within the next 5-10 laps-ish where they will be making those pit stops and swapping over, and we'll see whether the undercut versus the overcut, which one is going to be the better one. Of course, just to explain basic racing terminology that I'm sure everybody already knows, but the undercut will just give you, it would give you an advantage in terms of track position because you're able to get the tyres warmed up nice and quickly, but also at the same time it means that they will be absolutely knackered come the end of the race. And if they do pit on lap 27, they have to do 43 laps on that same set of tyres. So it's going to be stretching them to their very limit.
So in that regard, they're now starting to wonder, okay, what point do we go? Effectively, the soft and the medium, if you want to compare it to the real world, are a medium higher out there over the course of racing. But Jacob Reed is on an absolute charge, and once again, I said that for the second time, he's on a charge because he's clawed that gap down to 7/10 as Kent Nielsen here in the top right of your screen. Oh, gets very close there to Balazs Galliard, who has to sail through the middle of the corner. Max Barnes goes by without any worries at all. Adam Webb is going to want to get in as well to stay with his teammate in Kent Nielsen, but it is getting a little bit interesting in the middle, and lines are being very much thrown about there as Galliard is going to have to give it up then to Adam Webb. Nielsen under the threat now of Barnes, but critically, Jacob Reed has sight of the race lead and he has DRS to work with him.
He certainly does, and well, there's going to be a couple of attempted overtakes, I think, into the final corner. We've just seen Nielsen dive into the pit lane from his medium set of tyres, and he'll be swapping over now for his one and only pit stop of the race. He'll be hoping it's his one and only pit stop of the race. Reed has pushed to get into this position, and he wants to make this move stick as quickly as he can. Is that Balazs Galliard? That is going to be Adam Webb, who's gone round in the first couple of corners.
It's a big old hit. I think Adam Webb's gone first and Galliard's had nowhere to go. He's gone for the inside. And I think that there's been a little swipe across the nose because, look, he's gone for the inside. He's overcooked it into the corner and he's just locked his front wing off there on Adam Webb, who will be desperately unlucky there that he's been caught up in that, as your race leaders now nose to tail coming out of the centre chicane. They have cleared the likes of Sebastian Rekov and they've got 3 seconds now over Mario Bodlosh, so they'll be very happy that they've built that margin. My goodness, almost tagging the wall through 4. Jacob Reed, you can tell he's at 10/10.
You certainly can. You can tell that he is pushing as much as he can to try to catch up to Eduardo Radice at the moment and trying to find any sort of overtaking opportunity to pick up that position. He'll keep chasing and he will keep chasing, and there'll be some point where it may become a little bit too much. That was close for the Mercedes, and just ahead of them they've got Kent Nielsen, who's going to want to get out of the way. Walter Lux is round.
He's done it again on his own. Same thing we've always seen. Back steps out, nowhere to go. He's just brushed against the Armco on the right-hand side and nothing more. He's still waiting for a way to turn himself around as he drops now out of 8th place. But here comes the chance then as they sit. Radice has got it covered with a second dose coming out of this final chicane, and this is where Jacob Reed can now look to try and set this move up to the outside. 3 championships between them, long way around from Jacob Reed, commands back on the inside and takes it away from the Italian.
Great move, great spot from Jacob Reed, and he picked up that position. Radice dropping down to 2nd place, and Reed, I think, has deserved this on pace. Radice, I think, has to change his strategy just a little bit. Is he going to chase in behind Reed and try to re-overtake, or is he just going to make the most of the fact that Reed will have absolutely pushed incredibly hard to get to this point, as the pit window, I think, is open now. Lux into the pit lane, but of course he had a moment last time out that may well have just changed that strategy for himself. But we're seeing more and more drivers into the pit lane. Radice 6/10 off of the back of Jacob Reed. This is a position he's not been in since the very, very start of this race.
So he'll have the ability to go and gather it back. Kent Nielsen is now out and he is missing a front right tyre and a rear wing. So this happened right behind the leaders as he worked through the third chicane, just went straight off to the right, over the back, bang. Massive accident there. You can see how much energy got dispersed on the hit, and so that puts him out of the race on home soil, and that will be his 18th retirement in the Grand Prix Tour to boot as well. Not a way you want to celebrate racing at a circuit that you should know like the back of your hand. Here comes Emil Lundell though on Adam Williams. He's not going to get the line that's going to get the pass done into 5th position, so Adam holds his ground, and there's not really much more that can be done here from Emil except wait another lap, maybe try and look at strategy as a way to go and set it off into motion. But at least right now, this is a great accountability showing that they've got, and there's the race on as well for 10th, because Philip Kuhnhardt just lost the place to Max Barnes, who for the first time is going to be in a point-scoring position.
Yes, he certainly could be. That would be great for Max Barnes, who is trying to hold on to that position for this moment. Emil Lundell chasing the rookie Adam Williams. As there we go, there is that overtake for Max Barnes up into the top 10. And, well, he's managed to stick it through the final couple of corners. And I say couple because it's kind of one leads into another, 13 leads into 14. And it is a difficult segment to make an overtake. So fair play to all of those drivers who get the momentum with the DRS and do decide to make that move. But a lot of them try to take it as a way to set up for the straight down here, because, of course, they get another burst of DRS, which allows them to turn that position. But it requires an absolutely perfect exit out of the final corner. Jacob Reeders, by the way, managed to build up that gap to over a second, meaning Radice has lost DRS.
Yeah, and so by losing DRS, that is going to make life doubly difficult to close that gap down, because you have to do so on pure pace and not without the overtaking aid to go and help you stay in that margin. But for Emil Lundell, he'll know that he's got ways to try and get himself about it at this stage, as he will get the drive that runs on forward, then out then of turn 7 into 8 and 9, flicking through the right and the left and staying pretty strong actually through there. I think 8 and 9 is Emil Lundell's strongest corner, and that means that he's always going to be a threat here at Lepango. Oh, he locks it up and has to go straight on as he goes through the corner, slides through, gets it turned round, but he doesn't lose a place, but so much time.
Terrifying moment for Adam Williams on his debut race to see Emil Lundell almost into the back of him, but he survives and he continues on in this one. 3 seconds now the difference between the two, whereas at one point there was less than a centimetre between the two drivers, I would say, between the front wing and the rear diffuser of the 11 and 12 respectively. Mario Bodlosh is going to try to catch up to Haugerud and try to make his way back onto the podium ahead of the McLaren liveried Mercedes in the top 3 at the moment, and there's 8/10 between them, so I'm not sure how feasible that move is going to be, as I think we're going to get our first couple of pit stops this race very soon.
I think we will. We'll go radio for a little bit longer here on lap 27 here of 70. There is Sander Haugerud, who is currently in 3rd place. He's got back through on Mario Bodlosh, so I think that he's had to take a couple of laps to cool the tyres down, not to worry at any real point in time at all. But critically, I think he's now trying to build this up and say, I do have pace, I can make it work, but he's had to maybe go through a tough phase in the middle of his stint, and the tyres basically have been nice to him by the way he's responded towards it. Back on then through into that final chicane. Bodlosh catches a wicked wiggle through the middle, and now Haugerud has the chance to open the taps.
Certainly does, but only about 4/10 of a second between the two drivers. We'll see how their straight line speed stacks up versus their cornering. I think Haugerud has the edge in the corners because he was able to eke out just that little bit more of a gap to Bodlosh, but that might be skewed by the dirty air, as we shall see how Bodlosh responds to that down the straights. It appears as though he's got better straight line speed, so if he can get close enough to Haugerud through the final sector, that's where he can strike, because the final sector is so very focused on those straights, and you can see the first of the 3 now, so it kind of leaks into the second sector, but he really has the opportunity to try to close in through those straights. Haugerud will be really, really impressive in the first sector, and that's what he needs to make the most of. George Van Rensburg trying to make his way back through the field, and he's going to be on the outside line of Lyle Pienaar and get that move done nice and quickly. He's up into 13th. And Ray Griffin in the top right corner of your screens is the next driver up.
Yeah, he's just run wide trying to get the pass on Philip Koenhart, and ultimately the Dutchman's going to lose out to the German. George van Rensburg, of course, someone who is absolutely needing to charge his way back through the order here at this moment in the lilac pink and the light baby blue. In comes Eduardo Radice, lap 29 that he now comes in and crosses the line with. This is going to be a big early call to make that soft tyre work, and he misses his box. He's overshot his box, and that's going to cost him a second and a half at least.
It certainly is. Eduardo Radice might have bottled the opportunity to fight back with Reed in this race. He's going to have to hope the undercut works perfectly.
Look at where he's come out, directly behind Alex Hagland. He would have been clear if not for the missed box, and this is going to cost him a whole lap.
Certainly is. There's not many overtaking opportunities around this circuit, the majority of them in the final or first sector. So Eduardo Radice will have to remain frustrated behind Hagland, and he will be desperate to make his way past. These tyres will need to get up to speed very, very quickly. And at what point will Radice decide to make this move? I think it's going to be out of turn 10, heading down towards the Wall of Champions.
Yeah, so that Wall of Champions, I think, section is going to be the best place. Look at him, he's all over the back. He doesn't know what to do with it here. Does the championship leader, and it's amazing what this place can do. Sander Haugerud then is going to jump in. He's going to get off of his medium tyres, go on to a set of softs as they're side by side around with Webb and Rekov and Galliard as he works through. The pass then made by Eduardo Radice. He gets by Alex Hagland, who immediately dives in for the pits behind him and decides, right, this is my time to go and make a stop. I doubt that we'll see Haugerud come out ahead of Eduardo Radice. We won't. Looks now on the soft tyre against the medium of George van Rensburg. Well, get a Staples button out for that one. That was easy.
Yeah, it certainly was easier than he would have been expecting, I think. And with the DRS, he's able to stay ahead. Hagland and Apariari both into the pit lane and making the switch to the softer compound of tyre. And they'll be joined in the pit lane by a couple more. Max Barnes, potentially, that was coming in. No, it's Griffin in as well. So all of those drivers just starting to make those moves. So later boxes than last year. But lap 30 of 70, it's still going to be the majority of the race they're going to try to do on those next tyres, as Balázs Galliard, who's been in the fighting for the majority of this race, is going to try to go for Webb. Is Jacob Reed going to do one better than Eduardo Radice and hit that pit box? That will give him the time that he would need just to eke out that gap that little bit more, and he will just try to absolutely nail this stop now to make the most of Radice's mistake.
So, as far as this sets, Jacob Reed, that is a very solid pit stop, and I think he's going to come out with a gap far greater than he thought he was going to. And as he runs through, look at that difference there, at least 3 seconds is going to be the margin by the time you get up to speed. Radice with a wiggle as he looks to try and put the power down, maybe overdriving the car at this moment in time. Jacob Reed is clear, and he is comfortably clear.
Yes, he certainly is. Jacob Reed has come out with a gap of 3.4 ahead of Eduardo Radice. And Radice on another set of those softs, whereas Jacob Reed has plumped for the medium compound of tyre. They're going to be trying to... Radice is going to be trying to make the most of the tyres that he's on at this point in time. It means, though, that Reed is going to have to stop again.
He might do, is he knows now that as he sets himself up, his strategy is a two-stop today. And with the hotter conditions out there, maybe that's the reason why that the one-stop strategy isn't going to work. So you go to a two, but that's going to make life interesting for Bodlos, for example, for Adam Williams, for Emil Lundell. They're going to sit... Oh, he's in again! I know exactly what's gone wrong. Jacob Reed got a set of mediums at the stop, and he realised, oh my goodness, what have we done? I haven't ticked for softs, and suddenly he's got to make an extra stop for softs.
Oh my goodness me. Both the race leaders have had a moment of madness. Radice was missing his pit box. Jacob Reed's was much, much more treacherous and much more costly as well. This chase that the driver now on softs is going to have to do is going to be absolutely ridiculous, and he's going to come out in 6th place. So not too many more overtakes he'll have to make but it's two crucial ones. It's Eduardo Radice, it's Sander Haugerud. It's the two drivers that he'd managed to comfortably clear on pace in the first stint.
And he says in chat to everyone else, Ferrari moment. And that pretty much is a big, big mistake that he sets up with. So now it's Mario Bodlos who dives down in to look to make his stop, and he'll be looking for his set of soft tyres that will take him to home, as he's almost made it to halfway, 32 laps on that set. But I think they've got negative offset here, so they get off the mediums to use the best of the soft, rather than that the medium tyres are wearing out more than necessary. He'll trundle down the lane, he'll find the third to last box out there, IndyCar boxes. There goes Eduardo Radice, he goes flying by. There's Sander Haugerud now making his run through. This is going to be very close here on exit. Haugerud fights through turn 2, but I think Bodlos has got the clearance, but Haugerud's going to get a better run here off the exit into turn 3. It's going to be close, but Bodlos has it covered.
Certainly does, and those tyres will fire up very quickly, with them being the softer compound of tyre. So he will be right on the pace and holding on to that position, and that's a snap for Haugerud that he's done well to hold. 6/10 of difference between himself and Bodlos. Jacob Reed 13 seconds off of the back, but keep an eye on the difference between those two drivers. I'm sure it'll come down, but I don't think it'll come down quickly enough. And even if it does, he won't have the tyres to last to the end of the race. So this is very much the fight for second place. And if they can catch Radice, then it will be the fight for first. But Eduardo Radice has had the edge over these drivers in the first stint.
They've got the life. Those tyres can make the end of this race, so don't worry about the tyre life. They can make it on the soft tyres from this point onward. What they will be looking at, though, is the sense of, where am I going to find this? Where am I going to gain this time back? As they will play with basically a negative delta shift out there compared to what you normally see in Formula Racing. But Jacob Reed will know he's got work to do. Haugerud understands that with only Williams and Lundell to pit, and they're in the wheelhouse of them pretty soon, I think they stare down the barrel of saying, this is the race for the podium. And Mario Bodlos somehow holds on to a wild ride. Haugerud's going to get the chance for the inside. He's not going to see the move there at 6.
He's certainly not going to see that move just yet, but that was a golden opportunity that he won't be able to take advantage of. But he will allow himself to get the run on Bodlos. He will look to the inside, but just back out of it for now. Sander Haugerud is being very, very patient with this overtake, and that's exactly what he needs to do, I think, because anything more brutal will really cost him in this fight, because it could, of course, see these two come to contact. The exit of the corner will be better for Haugerud, and with the DRS he'll be able to close in. The calculations we did earlier in the race was that it was about 3/10 gained. He's about 3/10 back. Giving it a go then before they get to turn 13 and 14, and he will be alongside, and he will be ahead. Sander Haugerud up to what will be provisionally second place. Bodlos with not too much ability to fight back, and with the DRS out of the final corner, Haugerud clears him.
5 seconds to chase down now for Sander Haugerud compared to Eduardo Radice, and this will be now what he sets down with for the second half of this one, as we are soon about to tick over that mark at the end of this lap, with still the likes of Adam Williams and Emil Lundell due to make pit stops then in this one, working through 6 and 7, and the key was the double bout of DRS. That was enough to basically put that one through. Got the pass through the first section there, Joseph, but critically still had the rear wing flap open to go and push for that next run forward. We've also got battles on 9th and 10th right now. Ali Goachman inside the top 10. Now that is really promising to see from him, because he hasn't scored a point yet this season, and I don't think he's ever scored a point. Best finish of 11th at the Nürburgring.
But I think he's going to have to do another stop, because he boxed on lap 3 of this race, so he's going to have to do another stop unless he's able to magically take those tyres 67 laps, which will be impossible. He won't be able to do it, so Gottschalk will be hoping for the pace to keep himself in and around that position, but it certainly has been very, very good pace for himself at the moment. He's off the back of Kamaya for 9th position. I think he's going to try to fight this one here, because when you're out of the points, when you know that you're going to be further down the order and you get the opportunity to fight for the top 10, you fight for it.
But this is also a circuit where we've seen spins and we've seen dramas out there from many who have tangled about with its walls, so there's always chances there. Galliard battling hard with Philip Kunhart. This for 16th position is going to get the look to the inside here at Lepango. Isn't going to quite get there. In comes Alex Hagland now for a second stop by the looks of things here. So this is probably to set up the run to home, and that's a front wing that has gone off then for Alex Hagland. So he makes that change. Galliard at a rate of knots goes forward. So my next question is, where did Alex Hagland knock that front wing? It's the front right that has been pushed in out there, and I think he's had to deal with that for well over a lap and a half now. So obviously something not quite right for Alex Hagland, who did that, I believe, on the Wall of Champions, lap 33.
Yeah, claimed another victim, claimed the driver with the 6th highest I rating in this lobby. So I guess we could call him amongst the champions of these drivers. Emil Lundell into the pit lane, by the way. He'll be making the switch after 37 laps on those mediums over to the softs. So they will have so much tyre life towards the end of the race. Also, watch the progress of Adam Williams. He's gone even longer. He leads his debut Grand Prix Tour race, and he's going to be on that set of medium compounder tyres for over half this race. I think he's going to try to hang them out as long as possible so that those softs by the end will be in much better condition than the majority.
Yeah, he wants a big offset here to go charging through and easily make passes, and I think he understands you need a lot on a street circuit to get a pass. Maybe a second a lap quicker, a second and a half. You comfortably get that margin. Goachman's still on the back here of Kammeyer, does owe a pit stop, so that will cost him about half a minute out there, a pit stop in time. So that would put him to the back of the field. He'll be looking at Galliard and Kunhart, for example, out there as they go through. This was Alex Hagland. Wall of Champions just got too much on the one side, and he's lucky that the suspension hasn't caved in there.
Yeah, certainly is. Alex Hagland just about not quite going into the wall with enough speed to make sure that that car will crumple under. So surviving a moment, and it would have been a very, very hairy moment indeed. Gochman's up into the top 9 now as a result of those pit stops. So he's going to be able to stay within range of the top 8. He's going to be able to stay within range of Kammeyer, and he's managed to hold the gap to about 9/10 of a second, which with the tyres that he's got versus the 30-lap younger tyres that Kammeyer's got is fair going from the 17. He can pick up the lines that Kammeyer's got, and hopefully he can come back next time that we head to Canada, which I think undoubtedly is going to be next year. And well, we'll see what he's going to be able to do in terms of he's picked up those lines, he's learnt those lessons, and the more that you can learn off drivers that seem to be quicker than you, as he has found out today, the better. Balázs Galliard is going to go for his latest move, this one on Lyle Pinar, and he makes his way up another position. Pinar not going to fight that one too much, but Galliard now up 6 from the race start, and he certainly did it late on the brakes.
Yeah, he's done very well here as Galliard. He knows that he needs to make those passes. He gets by Lyle, and he's gone from 21st now up to 15th place, and these are the last cars on the lead lap, because directly behind them is the race leader, Adam Williams. So at least at this point, I would say that Adam here is the only one who owes us a stop, but he's very much sitting back and understanding, look, I'll savour this time at the front of this field. I'll go and gather that back and do everything I can for it. Now, we are talking about keep an eye out on Jacob Reed's gap. It was 13.5 seconds, 14 seconds when he came out of the pit. In the last 5-6 laps, he's pulled the gap down to 10 seconds to the back of Mario Bodlosh. Podium still on.
Yeah, podium very much still on right now, and well, we'll see the progression of that as now we are over halfway through. We've got 32 to go. So we're heading more towards 4/7 of the way through. I don't know how to simplify that equation, especially not that quickly. The only drivers still within DRS at the moment are going to be Gochman, and it's going to be, of course, the driver in fighting for 4th place, Mario Bodlosh, who'll be actually fighting for 3rd from 4th place at the moment, and he's going to be 3/10 off of the back of Haugerud. So he's going to get close, going to look to the inside, and he is going to make that move. I didn't think he was going to be as bold on the brakes as he was there, but Bodlosh up right now, back onto the official podium.
And we know that Sander Haugerud struggles in the middle phase with a tyre, so I think that was easy. I think we expected that pass out of Mario Bodlosh, but I think Sander's trying to give himself something for the end of this race, and that might be the telling mark out there for the Norwegian, who's trying to understand this car for the first time this season. And as far as cars go out there on iRacing, people think, oh yeah, it's a Formula car out there. This is going to be fun and we're going to jump in and we'll get through it. The Formula cars on iRacing are some of the toughest to go and drive because the amount of control that you need to make it drive is simply put on a level where most people can't.
Yeah, he's going to try to put it on that level, as you say. It's going to be great to watch the drivers try to push themselves throughout the remainder of this race and the season as well. Haugerud with a little bit of a slide out of turn 10, but he was able to hold on to it. Adam Williams heading on to what will be another lap. He'll have done 41 laps on these medium compound tyres. They're going to be screaming out, but he's managed them very, very well indeed. And, well, we will see what he can do with Eduardo Rodis closing in the last lap. The difference between them was 5 seconds. It's now coming down quite significantly in this first sector, down to about 4.5. But in terms of the actual pace they're holding, still, Adam Williams, 15.2s that he's putting in. So it's not like he's just trying to hang on to these tyres. He is using them.
Yeah, I think that he's gotten to a level where they've scrubbed and he's got them pretty much cured. I'm very interested to see what he can do in the second half of this race, because if Eduardo Rodis is matching his times, basically did a 15.2, Bodlosh a 14.6, and you got Jacob Reed on a 14.5, Adam Williams is probably going to be the fastest driver out of the pits in the final stages of this race, and that's going to be a big threat for the likes of Emil Lundell. It will be a threat for the likes then of Volta Lux and maybe even Sander Haugerud if he's not too careful in the final stages. So Adam Williams here has turned up to try and upset the apple cart. In he comes for his first and only stop, he hopes, of the day, and this will set him up in motion for an aggressive final stint of his race.
It really is. He's got so much to fight with at the end of this race, and he can be promised with the pace that he's had so far. It's been very, very good indeed, and he couldn't quite spot the pit box. There we go. He is in. He's going to make that stop, and he will be back out. Where is he going to be? Emil Lundell in the top right corner of your screens, heading through turn 13 and 14 and down the main straight. Is he going to be behind Adam Williams? The answer is a plain and simple yes. And Williams now on the back of Jacob Reed.
By 3 seconds, and so that puts into perspective, if you've got a driver who's got bit between his teeth trying to chase, suddenly it's not one car that's bearing down fangs, it's 2. And that, I think, is going to be a real telling mark as far as this one goes. It's 20, oh, he gets a wiggle there through turn 7. You've got to be careful of that on cold tyres. But Eduardo Rodis walked into today 26 points ahead in the championship. And oh, catch that one, why don't you? Full drift spec from Adam Williams. Jacob Reed would find himself right now in 4th position at this moment in time in the race. He's not 26 points back, he'd be 38 back, heading to Long Beach, which is iRacing's Monaco.
Yes, it certainly is, since Adam Williams trying to warm up those tyres and trying to keep himself within the range as well. Black flag for, well, Adam Webb at the back of the order. That's a huge shame.
Yeah, that's for 17 incident points, and who said at a street circuit you can't pick them up? And Adam Webb has done, and he'll have to dive down into the pits and get himself a drive-through penalty, and what has been a tough day at the office for him, 1 lap down. Really, I think he understands why he's only come in on a part-time basis here, because he's had to try and get back in the car, and I think he's really struggled today, and I think he needs a few more laps to get off the quote-unquote ring rust.
Yes, he certainly does. I think this is providing him the opportunity to do so of course, he's done many laps of racing throughout this one. He's survived over half of it, and so that means that he's shaken off a bit of the rust, as it were, and he's going to try to keep that rust firmly away throughout the rest of this season. You need a few laps to get yourself into it, a couple of races maybe in some drivers' cases, and so we will see how long it takes them to get up to scratch and up to snuff these two drivers still very close together. Gotchman's pace on these softs has been absolutely magnificent. Only now he's dipping into the 16s, but Kamai are going even slightly slower than that. So I don't even think it's fully on the Turkish driver in terms of the fact that he's dropped into the 16s. Just the pace that he's been able to keep up. Him and Williams stretched those stints so long, but these softs, compared to Williams' mediums, must be absolutely ripped to bits.
Well, I think that he knows that he's trying to send this as far as he can. He's got confidence in the tyre. He may as well go and use it the way that he needs to, but there is still shine on his tyres here for Ali Gochman, so I don't think that they are worn out. We saw that, of course, last time out in Miami, that the tyres would actually fade out there in various guises when you went around the circuit, and so for Ali Gochman, he understands here in this race, this is what he needs to do. He just needs to settle himself down, put the lap times in, and hope that the tyre life just gives him what he wants between now and the end of this one, and staying on the back of Florian Kattmeyer. I think he's doing a wonderful job of things in all due respect with how this sets itself apart. But I do now know that there's been a lot of tough traffic for Eduardo Radice to go and deal with over the course of this last lap or so. He's now seen that gap come down under 4 seconds. Here. So Haugerud and Bodlosh are slowly keeping that margin into play, and I think it was even front stretch slow down penalty potentially for Eduardo Radice if he wasn't too careful, but it doesn't look like it here, but he has given away time and he can't afford to give away much more.
No, he certainly can't. 3.6 the difference between the top two drivers in this field, and Haugerud will be keeping Bodlosh honest as they dip into the 14s. A 14.7 from Radice last time out, a 14.6 from Bodlosh, and a 14.5 from Sander Haugerud. So those drivers really keeping each other honest, especially the two that are together on the circuit. Radice will be watching those times, but it's a whole different beast when you've got the drivers fighting you on track, as Gallia fighting once again, this time with George Van Rensburg. This time he gets the move done into the final corner once again. Is Van Rensburg going to have much to do? No, because he doesn't have that DRS. He looked as though he was trying to shape something back, but he couldn't do it in the end, and Gallia now up 7. He's the second biggest gainer in this race so far, or third with the joints, with the top two being joint, Ali Gochman and Max Barnes, but of course Gochman has stretched that stint, so I'm not sure that's particularly representative at the moment, although with the gaps that are starting to form, I don't think he's too far off of being able to climb back up into the top 10 by the end of this race.
No, he's not a million miles away. He's just got to keep the pace up, and he's got a chance. Edward Apariari's 10 seconds down the road. Then you've got Alex Hagland trying to recover up. Likes of Griffio and Gallia and Rensburg. They're all there. Haugerud trying to move by Lyle Pinar. The lap traffic does so, as that will be Kattmeyer now losing the place then into the final chicane. So Ali Gochman up to 8th then with that pass. But Sander Haugerud, again I say this, hasn't given up, but there's a caveat to it. Jacob Reed's now only 5 seconds off the back, and Jacob Reed, I argue at this pace, can still win this race.
Yeah, he certainly could do. It's whether he's ripped those tyres up in the pushing in this stint, because of course he's had to he's gained 7 seconds on the cars in front, even 8 seconds now that he's down to just under 5 in certain parts of the circuit. So he's really had to push that car hard, and he will be keeping himself pushing throughout the course of this race. One thing's for sure, he's going to have that fastest lap wrapped up, because he continues to be in the 13, the 13.8 at the time before, the 13.9 the last time out, as he just crosses the line, and he dips it under 5 seconds, the difference between himself, Bodlosh and Haugerud. And I think these two drivers will start to think about the number 2. They've only thought about each other and Radice for a while, but I think Jacob Reed is going to start to come into the calculations.
Yeah, I think he will, and this is critical as Jacob Reed tries to hunt down. Bodlosh himself is closing down in here on Eduardo Radice, so I think that's also playing a key factor here into this one. It dips under 3 seconds here for the first time in a long time for Eduardo Radice, a driver who is so talented in what he's done, and I want to talk about the cycle as well in terms of what that means as a crowning achievement. Jacob Reed's not done the cycle. Eduardo Radice is one finish off of the cycle, and the cycle is getting a points finish in every position, P1 to P10. All he needs for the cycle, does Eduardo Radice, is a 5th place finish out there to go and get it. Obviously, he doesn't want 5th because he's leading out there at the moment, but he knows that he is a very talented driver who has done a whole heap of great running.
He certainly has, and it can be so crushing if you lose a victory in this sort of length of race. When you're doing a half distance race, so if you do something around 35 laps, it's disappointing, but it's certainly not as crushing as it would be to lose this race towards the end of it, especially with the manner that Eduardo Rodis has taken to this one. The only time that he's looked like this was going to slip was when Jacob Reed passed him early on in the first stint, or earlier on even in the first stint, but then Reed made his mistake after Rodis's mistake had already been made, and so the number 1 was able to take full advantage of the fact that his was only minor. But after that, it's been all down to the pace of Bodlos, Haugerud and Jacob Reed to keep him honest, and they have done just that. They've done as much as they can in this final stint to keep their hopes of victory alive.
23 laps to go. The gap is 2.3 seconds. Lap traffic is Adam Webb, who's going to dive out of the way on the right-hand side. Fastest section of track here. They're running well over 300 kilometers an hour as they run towards that final chicane. And Mario Bodlos under 2 seconds. A 14.4 plays a 14.9. A half a second scythe out to the championship leader.
Yeah, and that is a huge cut for Mario Bodlos to have been able to gain on our race leader. But crucially, he's managed to almost drop Haugerud out of the DRS. I'm not sure at what point they crossed the detection, but I'm not sure whether Haugerud has that DRS on the back of Bodlos. That could be absolutely crucial with Jacob Reed catching up and with Bodlos hoping to clear Haugerud and catch up to Rodis. Balázs Galliard, guess what? Going for an overtake to the inside of turn 10, backing out of it, but he is looking at another driver, and his pace in comparison to all of the drivers in this further back field has been magnificent. He's kept a consistent pace of low 115s when everybody else in this mid to lower pack has gotten 15.4s up. So Galliard, who looks to the outside line of turn number 13 and 14, makes another position up. And it's not like some of these drivers that have benefited from mistakes from other drivers, pits from other drivers. Galliard has worked hard.
Yeah, he's worked really hard. I wouldn't say either that Eduardo Rodis's pace has dropped. I think he's been very consistent. He's been low to mid 115s basically for the entirety of his stint. I think he's managing the tyre life here, but Mario Bodlos has just been quicker. He's just been able to get more out of the tyre here on this soft compared to the medium, and I think that's making all of the difference right now, and why the lead gap is down to 1.6 seconds. There's burning a tyre up, there's trying to use it all up to chase it down. There's also the sense that when you get there, the hardest second to chase down in motorsport is the last one.
It is the last one, and that is what they're going to try to do. Bodlos 1.5, the difference between himself and Rodis. As you can see, the lead gap now displayed on screen, which means 6.2 between Rodis and Jacob Reed at the moment. You can see, as you say, so much traffic that they are catching up to. So in these next 5 or 6 laps, this could be the most crucial point in this race. How quickly is Rodis able to navigate this traffic? How quickly is Bodlos able to respond?
Well, Mario Bodlos knows that he wants to try and get his first ever win in the iRacing Grand Prix World Tour. So too would Sander Haugerud if he's timed this one perfectly. If dramas belie all those that come along in front. Jacob Reed looking for career win number 29. Eduardo Rodis for career win number 17. Mario Bodlos ticks within a second. A brush against the wall there you saw with the smoke. So Mario is absolutely wringing the neck of his Mercedes W13. And now look at that. With DRS, he'll close this gap down to 5/10.
He certainly will, and I think, as you say, Eduardo Rodis is managing these tyres. Is he going to let Bodlos push them, or is he going to fight him back? I think with 20 to go, it's going to have to be a case of Eduardo Rodis making the most of those tyres that he's got. He's managed so that they will be similar wear to what Mario Bodlos has. There's a four-lap offset between those two drivers. There's a 1-lap offset between Rodis and Haugerud, and there's a 1-lap offset equally between Bodlos's Galliard is going to go slightly off of the road. That will be a slowdown for him, and Max Barnes hoping to pounce.
Yeah, Max Barnes will know that he'll get a great chance to go by and back into 12th place with it. As you can see just in the background, flicking through shot, your leaders, Radice and Bodlosh and Haugerud and Reed now split by 4.8 seconds between them. Max Barnes looking for a way through. This is a little bit cheeky. It's served by Balazs Galliard, and critically, he doesn't have to give the place back up, but now Griffey Owen sits there, George van Rensburg sits there, and they've got to get through. And Eduardo Radice has got to find a way by that next train, and I think he's hoping he can leapfrog to that group in the next lap or two right now here, Joseph, because if he does, that's DRS, and that's a chance for him to defend.
It certainly is. It's a great chance for him to defend that position. He needs to also make the use of that traffic. He needs to make sure that he is the driver who wins out of these two in terms of gaining the time through that traffic. And they are just catching up to the back of George van Rensburg at the moment, who had the pace early on to keep up with them. So he will desperately try to hold on to it. Bodlosh, here he goes to the inside of Radice, and with the DRS is going to find his way through. With the DRS out of the exit of the corner, he will be able to confirm that position. A crucial move for Mario Bodlosh in these late stages.
One lap too late for Eduardo Radice, the lap traffic. They'll catch it now, and I think they understand here that he really wanted an extra lap. He wanted to fend himself off for 2 or 3 more. Now he's got to sit in and wait here for the strategy to play out. Wait and see if he's got something to fight back with his tyre life. Radice was the earliest taker in on tyres. He's got to manage them to the end of this race, and I think that's really telling. Jacob Reed as well has caught the back of Sander Haugerud, but his job to win this race just became a lot harder on the account of the Austrian, who now leads.
It certainly did indeed, and they will try to fight their way through the traffic now. There goes Bodlosh on Van Rensburg, who very smartly gets out of the way. He knows this is not his fight. Griffin is next up. He needs to be equally as aware if these two are going to have the purest of fights. And I don't know whether that is going to be the case for these drivers, whether it is going to be able to be like that, because that's the way that it goes. Eduardo Pariari, that looks like it's the end of his race.
It's the end of 2 races, actually. It's Alex Hagland's as well that's gone up in smoke, so they're both out at the Wall of Champions. Apariari going through the right and the left, looped it around, and then Alex Hagland had nowhere to go and ran straight up the back and caught the Wall of Champions himself. It promotes Galliard to 10th, Barnes to 11th, and Griffey Owen now in 12th place. And this is a place of attrition today, so hold on to it. There's still time to be had.
There certainly is. 17 to go. There's still time to be had. There's still fights to be had.
So Jacob Reed has got through. He's done that at turn 1 to get himself up into 3rd. It was a comfortable pass down the inside, but Jacob Reed bit between the teeth. Now just 3 seconds off the lead.
And that's exactly what he would have wanted. He's making his way through. What's happened to Hagland? Yep, nothing he could have done. Apariari just having the spin on the exit, and Alex Hagland nowhere to go. Unfortunate to call his race to a close, because he had a very, very good race indeed. But unfortunately, that is going to be it, I think, in terms of his race. He's still in the pit lane, but I don't think that will be any chance to come back in this one. It will almost be 16 to go for all of these drivers. And, well, Mario Bodlosh will be leading the way ahead of them. Jacob Reed, there is the overtake that he made last lap on Haugerud, and it was just a plain inside move. Haugerud tried to sweep wide to get that cutback, but he couldn't do so. Reed up to the podium.
Plain and simple, no arguments about it. That was just a nice overtake that was must make, must need to, and did so very well. Jacob Reed's only got to get by here now. Max Barnes, and he will be on the back of his championship rival Eduardo Radice. And now you turn this into what looked like 20-25 laps ago. That this could be one of those days where there's not going to be anything to talk about. I think Volta Lux has just summed it up quite well from his cockpit. Jacob Reed is in full Hulk mode. He is staring daggers down the championship leader's throat.
Oh, he is, and this is going to be a great end to this race. 1.3 seconds between these two drivers, who appear to be the early championship contenders in the first third of this season. And so Jacob Reed is very much going to want to get the edge over Eduardo Rodis. It's a long season, 24 races in it, and we will be race number 7 here today. Eduardo Rodis, for his credit, has won plenty of them. This would be, if he is able to come home in second place, this would be his first second place of the season. He's been too busy finishing first. He's got, out of 6 finishes so far, 4 race victories. This would be the first time off of the top step, and for Mario Bodlosh, it would be only his second victory in only his 3rd race.
Yeah, critically, when we talk about Mugello, he crossed the line, did Eduardo Rodis first, but he had 17 instant points. It demoted him down to 6th at the end of running. But Jacob Reed knows he's had to build this season up, and he's going to have no help here going through that 3rd chicane. He's got to tiptoe by. He would have been spooked by Balazs Galliard, cutting to try and avoid then being a nuisance, and ultimately it will cost him about half a second to 6/10, but Rodis is back in range of Mario Bodlosh here, so this isn't a guarantee out there in terms of position. I think you're going to have to be trepidatious.
I think you very much are. I think it's going to have to be very, very tight for these drivers, and they're going to have to take any sort of advantage out of anyone at the end of this race. George Van Rensburg, as we can see, has just made his way out of the way of all of these leading pack as quickly as he could, and fair play to him. And, well, they've hit him at the perfect time as, well, Jacob Reed continues on 1.3 off of the back of Rodis, so trying to pick up that DRS. This is his lap.
Yeah, he knows it, and Eduardo Rodis knows it. He is agonisingly close to the back of Mario Bodlosh. That would give him some reprieve. Top 3 out there at the moment, split by 1.7 seconds on track. Sander Haugeru is 3 seconds back of that and looking to try and keep himself into position. The traffic has been mega in terms of this run, but Eduardo Rodis there with DRS has just been able to hold off. Now he needs drive, and he's going to get back into it. And I tell you what, having a car behind you does something. It gives you that sense of you've got to go a little bit quicker, you've got to go a little bit faster, you've got to be a little bit more precise with your rotations, with your accuracy out there, and Eduardo knows it. 999 out there, call an ambulance, but not for Jacob Reed at this point, who sits at 4/10, hoping to try and find himself the way through. He's not going to get it here into the Wall of Champions, but that's wide from Eduardo Rodis. Here comes the 2-time champ to the outside. Can he get this one swept through on the reigning champion? Oh, you bet he can. What a pass.
What a pass indeed. Jacob Reed through on Rodis in sensational style, and I'm not sure how much Rodis has left to fight in him with Jacob Reed. The attention turns then to the race lead. The attention turns to Reed's 2nd potential victory of the season, 1.2 behind Bodlosh. Rodis will pick up that DRS. He will try to stay within range, but I'm not sure, as I say, whether he's going to have that potential to fight back. He'll give it his best shot. He will push fully to the end of this one. Reed will have DRS.
Yeah, but he's just tagged the wall there out of that 3rd chicane, and any more nibbles like that, keep an eye on the incident points, because they'll start creeping on up, and any sort of suspension issue out there you've got to be alert to here too. So this could be a really important race between now and the end of this one, where I don't think it's as simple as Jacob Reed just gets this. Mario Bodlosh, he has been 2nd to Jacob Reed, he has been 2nd to Eduardo Rodis. I think he's tired of being 2nd.
I think he certainly is indeed, and that is what is going to be the defining characteristic of the late stages in this race. 12 laps to go then, and Mario Bodlosh is going to be desperate to hold on. Jacob Reed last time out of 13.391. Sensational pace from the Worcester man as he chases in Mario Bodlosh, who himself set a 14.5. In fact, Reed set a 14.0 last time out. 33 is the lap that sees him fastest. So 5/10 the difference between those two drivers at the top. And with Reed with DRS, he's looking a very, very threatening presence indeed. Will the overtake be at the exit of turn number 10? I think that's where he's going to want to give it a go, but he does slap the wall out of 8.
Yeah.
So he's not going to put himself in the best position to do so, but 3/10 back, 3/10 gain with the DRS. He's going to see if he can make it past it.
Well, he wants it, and he's in the range now. Mario Bodlos is going to have to do his best to defend this one. I'll look from the rear diffuser. Here comes Jacob Reed. You're not going to get it done on the inside. You're going to have to go long ways here. Defence with 12 laps to go. Bodlos chucks it in and holds the defence. Now, can he do so again? Over towards 1 and 2, Jacob Reed. How much battery did he use up there of the energy recovery system to go and make it happen? Not enough to make the move here at 1 and 2. So parity restores itself at this moment, and Mario is not going to give this up without a fight.
No, he certainly isn't going to give this one up without a fight indeed. He's going to try to be a wall as Reed very close to the side of the wall on this Montreal circuit. But Mario Bodlos trying to hold him up as much as he can into the next DRS, so not giving him the opportunity to get the run, but he may well just have shot himself in the foot. Jacob Reed a 10th back. Is he going to look to the outside? Bodlos is going to defend to the inside, but sweep across.
Yeah, no point going for it here. It's too short of a straight. He wasn't able to get alongside, but now he's going to try and pick the run up, maybe even go for it at the hairpin. No, he thinks better of it again. He had a little pivot angle to the inside. I think he wants decisive here as we're nearing 10 laps to go at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Mario Bodlos, there's only so much he can do to defend this one here, and I think he'll be out of battery to make it happen. So through goes Jacob Reed without a fight this time by in towards that final chicane, and I am incensed by the way that he's gone about this. He has done a wonderful job as Jacob Reed, from a full pit stop down on his own mistake to now leading the race again with 10 laps to go. This is legendary stuff.
Global SimRacing Channel, you will find almost every broadcast there will be absolutely, we run out of superlatives for Jacob Reed, and today he's demonstrated exactly why. He may well just clear Bodlos's DRS even as he heads through the second sector, but he is absolutely sensational, a special talent here on iRacing, and well, he's just very, very much going to show it here today. A two-time champion of the Grand Prix Tour, second last time out, and the driver currently challenging for the top spot in the iRacing Grand Prix World Tour. He may well close that gap down to Eduardo Radice. 4 wins out of the first 5 races for Radice. Jacob Reed is going to start to wrestle some momentum back.
And if it were to stay like this, that gap of 26 would be down to just 16 points out there, and Jacob Reed knows it. He will start gaining momentum for what will come along in 2 weeks' time. George van Rensburg now looking for 12th place here as he tries to pass Ray Griffey-Owen. He'll get the overspeed, he'll get the pass done, and for him, he knows he's not a million miles away off of points here, because if he can get by Balazs Galliard and Max Barnes, he's right there in the points. And there's also the sense of, can Ali Ghoshman's tyres still hold on? Remember, he's been going on that set since lap 3 of the race, and so he's got 9 laps effectively to hold on to it and hold off Florian Kamar as well.
He certainly does. It's going to be very difficult indeed to be able to hold on to that position. He's done a sensational job to stretch these soft compound tyres all this time, and well, if he does manage to do it, that will almost be as impressive a drive as Jacob Reed's, because of how hard he's had to push these tyres. And he's not exactly done this all by himself. He has had to fight. He has had Kamaya for company. He's sat in the dirty air. He's stayed back and watched and waited for Kamaya to make a slip up. Kamaya did. Gutschman made his way through and now is in that clear air, but does have the pressure from the number 5 in behind. So the fact that he's been able to just keep that pace up throughout has been sensational, and he's keeping that consistency up. We've mentioned it a couple of times, consistency is key, and the fact that he's able to stay within 3/10 of his best time 40 laps later is just something special.
Well, he's driving absolutely magnificently, but also you've got to talk about the flip side of it. Florian Kamaya's confidence, I think, has not been very good this season. This was a driver who we were talking about this time last year, Joseph, as a title contender out there, someone who was challenging for victories each and every single time. You turn around and look at this season for Florian Kamaya, he's had a 6th, an 8th, a 13th and 3 retirements. Now that's not title form by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's really struggled to adapt this season to what the updates to this W13 have had.
Yes, he really has, and well, I mean, he still has that framework, so there's opportunities later on in the season for him to be able to recapture that previous pace. Kamaya looking briefly to the inside of Gotchman, trying to make him defend, trying to make him use those tyres. And at the moment, Kamaya just sitting in behind. Is it an overtaking opportunity again behind? No, but he's very much looking aggressive on the back of the number 17 at the moment, and he wants to make that move back up into the top 8. He wants to hold that position, and with 7 laps to go even, that might be it. Rekov, what's happened to him at the moment? Too much throttle on the exit, and well, for him, it just has not been a day to remember.
No, it really hasn't for Sebastian Rekov, and I think he'll have to go back to the drawing board then with the result that he's now starting to eye down here in the final stages. Kamaya still hoping that 8th place is on the board and 4 championship points. A slide like that, though, out of Lepangle is going to do no favours in terms of trying to pick that up. And George van Rensburg, he's going to dispatch then of Max Barnes, as through will also go Ray Griffey-Owen. So make that 2 on a straight. He just overcooked it. Then going through the right, staying low to the right-hand side. I think suffering a bit either there with a slowdown or an incident point that he picked up there and just said, no, I'm not going to find it. So you can see works through 4, 5, 6 into 7, just hangs it to the right. That looks like a slowdown.
Yes, it certainly does indeed. And Max Barnes punished very, very heavily for that, dropping positions. That's not what he would have wanted in the late stages of this race. But of course, he's not fighting for a top 10, so he's just fighting more for pride than anything else. But he has gained 9 places off of his start, so he can be very happy about that. Galliard and Gotchman both gaining 11. And, well, they are the biggest gainers of this race by far. The next biggest, Emil Lundell with 4. The next biggest, Jacob Reed and Adam Williams with 3, as well as Ray Griffin, who we're watching right now. But Jacob Reed has gained so much more than 3 positions. It's one of those that it looks on paper pretty simple for Reed, but as soon as you look at the race as a whole, it's been so very different.
Yeah, we don't race on paper, and this might be one of the reasons why, because you get some incredible results that come along from it. Florian Kamaya now here setting up towards his lap 65. I think he's just got to try and find any way to get this. Oh, Ghostman, bang! In the wall! And there goes Kamaya, massive accident! The pair of them are both out! 4 straight races for Florian Kamaya, this time not his fault!
That is the biggest crash I've seen in sim racing, I think. That is absolutely unbelievable. The Wall of Champions was always going to claim somebody today, and the way that it's claimed that driver is just absolutely ridiculous. Kamaya, unfortunate, I think, in the end, for it to be so insane like that, but what an unbelievable incident. I'm glad it's sim, to be perfectly honest with you, as Max Barnes now. This is a fight for the top 10, and he's on the outside trying to get through on Griffin, and there's going to be a bit of contact between the two. Griffin gives him a right old squeeze. That means he has to run wide on the exit. Max Barnes makes his way through.
I wonder with Ali Goachman whether his left rear tyre let go. It was looking very circumspect out there, but Max Barnes currently holding the ground against Ray Griffey-Owen for a point. You look at it, watch that rear left tyre then as it goes through. Just cannot get anything. It's a massive amount of impact. No way to get around it. And Florian Kamaya did everything he could to try and get away with it. Thank goodness he had the halo device there. Otherwise, he was going to have a face full of Ali Goachman's Mercedes.
Exactly, and that is not what he would have wanted at all. But unfortunately, he wasn't too far off that problem at the end of that incident when it's all said and done. So a huge crying shame for Goachman especially, who's had such a great chase throughout the course of this race. Kamaya doing a very good job as well to stay within the fight for those top 10 positions, but that is going to be it for their races, and we are going to be seeing with 4 to go the top 10 stack up with Van Rensburg, who's had a good fight back and Max Barnes as well. Van Rensburg, who we saw backwards at one point in this race, and he is back forwards and back racing, finds himself within the top 9 of the 16 drivers we have remaining.
Yeah, so this has been a tough race. We've seen 6 go out of this one, which is at least a quarter of this field that has found retirement. Jacob Reed leading this one 4 seconds to the good here over Mario Bodlosh, who has given it a red-hot go here today. But again, he's going to find himself slightly shy on that regard. And this looks like it is going to be one of those days where you just have to sit down and say, look, This might be one of them where you say Jacob Reed has the mark of a champion, because you always talk about what does a champion do in situations where he's on the back foot, and I don't think anyone expected him to come back with the amount of time he had to make up today.
No, I don't think they did indeed. It was just a ridiculous drive. I know that I wrote his chances off as soon as he came out of the pit lane, and I think I said as much. But the pace that he's had since is absolutely sensational, and well, he's very much proven me wrong. Even now, he's setting 1:14.1s. Even now, he's 5/10 quicker than any of his competitors. That is a mark of a true champion, and that is a mark of a 2 champion.
Yeah, and he'll know every single time he goes about his business, he needs to go and just tick the laps off with 3 laps to go. And the closest battle out there is for the final championship point, with Ray Griffione, who scored on a couple of occasions before in the Tour, and Max Barnes looking for his first ever championship point in his 4th start in the Grand Prix Tour. I think he knows he's under pressure late here, and Ray has got to use all that experience. I've known him out there driving around in the Grand Prix Tour and various Formula 1 series out there on iRacing for at least 7 years, and he wants to know, he wants to put himself to a level where he keeps pushing at it, he keeps doing what he is capable of doing, and that is to get a top 10 as the lowest iRating seed.
Yeah, certainly is indeed, and that would be a huge, huge charge for Griffin, who will be very much gaining iRating off of the back of this one. Barnes as well, pretty similar. He's 20 out of the 22 drivers in this, so they will both be benefiting from this one significantly, showing that they have the pace, they have the ability to contest with all of these drivers at the very top of their game. And well, a very strong split of field, as we always see in the Grand Prix Tour. But once again, just demonstrating how very difficult it is for these drivers to make it in. They might not even appear throughout the rest of this season, because they might just not have enough iRating. But what they have done is they've given off a great showing.
They have done, and this has been one of those shows where you sit back and say, what can you do in terms of where you set yourself out? Griffione still agonising at about a second here. He won't get DRS off the corner. In fact, he will. He's got 4 green lights on the dash, so he's lucky he was under a second then as he hit the mark. But again, he's just shy. He's not necessarily in a position where he can go and make that happen. He's not quite there. Jacob Reed about to start now the final lap of this race here from Montreal, and knowing what it all takes to get to a level like this one, he understands that he's just had to get his head down, he's just had to sort himself out, dig down deep and find a pace that legitimately nobody else in this field has been able to withstand out there. If he would have a run like this, he'd be 20 seconds down the road without the threat of Mario Bodlosh and Eduardo Radiz there. He knows how much this championship is going to mean. He knows how much he wants to wrestle back for his 3rd title after ceding it over to the Italian last year, who had a wonderful mid-part of the season. But when it looked like the formula was about to be written, that Eduardo Radiz was going to run away with it, this guy has stepped up and said, look, I need to buckle down in, I need to lock in, chat, as it were. And on start 72, as he runs himself through, he knows he's staring down win number 29, fastest lap number 25, and through the final chicane, his greatest ever win in sim racing. Jacob Reed with an immortal out there, a simply magnificent masterpiece.
Absolutely unbelievable from Jacob Reed out there. Mario Bodlosh and Eduardo Radice come home in second and third, and oh boy, did they give him a good fight. Don't forget as well, Eduardo Radice missed his pit box, so had to fight back from that as well. Haugerud to the line as well. He comes home in fourth, and again, another driver who put on a sensational race. And the top four, the top five have put on an absolute great show here today. Driver 340, Adam Williams, is going to come home in fifth. And what a drive he has had as well. There is such high stakes for these drivers. So many things that could have gone wrong throughout the course of those 70. So many things that did go wrong. And they just had the pace, they had the consistency and the ability to pick themselves up, which is what they did. None better than Reed.
This is one of those days that goes down in the championship as the moment that this momentum has purely changed out there. We'll get confirmation of a result as Sebastian Rekov will be the last one over the line to finish a lap down out there. But Jacob Reed, chapeau. What a result for him. He wins by 5.5 over Mario Bodlosh with an extra stop for a mistake of not changing the tyres. You then got Eduardo Radice in third as Sander Haugerud will finish off in fourth after his first ever pole position. On debut, Adam Williams, a very respectable P5, a gain of 3 ahead of Emil Lundell. With Volta Lux, the last finisher on the leading lap, he's 7th after his big spin. Balazs Galliard, a career best in 8th place, as George van Rensburg finishes 9th, and a first ever point-scoring finish for Max Barnes in 10th place.
And that's, of course, your top 10. Ray Griffin in 11th. He was, as were everybody, 8th down, a lap down. Philip Kuhnhardt in 12th place, and Lyle Pinar in 13th. Sebastian Rekov in 14th, and Adam Webb, Lukasz Szykomski, Florian Kamaya, Ali Gotchman, Alex Hagland, and Edward Apariari all ending off this race with, I think, Kamaya, the highest driver to DNF.
Yeah, he'll really struggle with it out there, and so to outwork Kent Nielsen, and dramatically Jeffrey Lawler snapping his streak then of 6 straight points finishes, which now is a streak that Eduardo Radice holds at 7 straight points finishes then in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour this season. But Joseph, I think it's not an understatement to say that's the greatest win of Jacob Reed's career. He had to really dig down deep to try and find it, but critically, he pulls that gap back within 1 race margin. In 2 weeks' time, he has a chance to take that championship lead away at a circuit he's never won at, that he has found really difficult, and many drivers do. The fabled Long Beach circuit in California. This is iRacing's Monaco, and it is such a difficult place to go and get it done. It very much is. It is an incredibly difficult track, and of course, we've seen it since the first iteration of the Grand Prix Tour, because as you say, it is iRacing's Monaco. We will see how the drivers compete in it, but it's going to be even tighter than Montreal was, because if we thought the walls were tight around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, they're about to get so much more tricky. They absolutely are. You can catch that 6:45 UTC. That is 7:45 GMT. It's 2:45 Eastern if you want to get in on that as part of a Genesis Extreme production. On top of that, there is still so much great racing to come along here with us. Grand Prix legends will be heading to the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps on Saturday. That's tomorrow, for their action at 1:30 UTC. IMSA Vintage will be jumping over to Long Beach. That will be a whole heap of fun there as they look to get an old school feel for it. Keeping on the old school mind, the Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series heads to a Classic F1 track in Motorsport in Canada. And on Thursday, the Skip Barbers will be back in action as they take on a Taylor's oldest time combination of Lime Rock Park. From the entire team that's brought this show to you today, from Christian Deploy, who's been in the director's chair, the cameras provided by Dougie Beard, Joseph Black, who has been alongside me. My name is Jake Sperry. My goodness, are we sitting in for a generational title fight between 2 drivers who just know how to swing a championship back and forth like a pendulum. That there for Jacob Reed would have been a heart-in-mouth moment where he thought the race was lost. He locked in, he got back to Eduardo Radice, passed him and Mario Bodlosh, and said, I am a world champion for a reason 2 times over, and I want a 3rd, and there is nothing come hell or high water that's going to stop me. Momentum firmly in the camp of Worcestershire as we will head in 2 weeks' time to iRacing's Monaco, and the toughest race on the calendar for all these drivers. We'll see you in California, and we will see you in 2 weeks at Long Beach.